Hi, welcome to Ardra in the Meluc Valley, southwest of Ireland, about as remote as you can get for the rest of Europe. Clive Evans here, bringing you the next in our series of mentoring videos with the help of Portia Pup here, who is determined to crash the show if she can. Portia's the eldest of our two foxhounds by about a week. She's 2.5. What are we going to talk about today is stuff that's actually very scary stuff. Asking for things, that's what today's mentoring video is about. Why is asking scary? We'll get into that. But it's necessary. You're not going to be able to do your life plan without asking for stuff, because you can't actually do it all by yourself. Every day we have to ask for stuff, and you would be very unusual if you don't find occasionally asking for things difficult. We all do. I'm 71 years old. Let me tell you, I've been finding things difficult for most of those 71 years, and that doesn't mean I don't anymore. So let's try and work through this together. Somehow or other, we've got to help you get better at asking for things, because you will need to ask for stuff. Is that okay? So, why is this difficult, and why is it so important? Well, has anybody ever taught you how to ask stuff? Not really. It's something that it's assumed that you know how to ask for things. It's assumed that you know how to respond to somebody asking you for things, because most things all the time are a question of either being somebody that asks or an askee. On my left here, I have an askee who is definitely making herself an asker. She's saying, why can't I get involved? So we're going to let her get involved. You have to be one side of the equation or the other, and nobody's ever taught you how to do it. Did you ever go on a course on saying how to ask things? You'd have to ask to go on the course, wouldn't you? So it's one of those things that nobody ever teaches you how to do. And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to teach you how to do it, but just hopefully we'll have some tips and tricks here to make it easier, because it's not always as easy as it sounds. You've been asking stuff now for enough years to know that it's occasionally difficult. And that's the point I'm trying to make. You're kind of beginning to go, well, why is this difficult? Oh, hang on a minute. Think of all those times you've asked for something or other and it hasn't worked out because you didn't ask the right way. Or think of all those times that somebody's asked you for something or other and that hasn't worked out particularly well because you didn't really know how to respond. That's what makes this so difficult. And that's why we're going to try and put some meat on the bone and help you get it better. Is that okay? So, what's so difficult about asking for stuff? What are we scared of? We're scared of that huge, big, nasty, 2-letter word, which is no. I'll say it again. No. Looking down the dog here, when I say no to them, they usually kind of go off and hide in a corner, because they know that that's not good. But interesting enough, it doesn't mean that they're not good. It means that what they're doing isn't good. Because that's the whole thing about the no word, isn't it? You know, the fear of rejection. If somebody says no to you, are they saying no to you? Or are they saying no to what it is that you're asking for? I'd suggest it's the second, not necessarily the first. It will be occasionally the first. You need to understand that one, which is, actually, I'm never going to get anywhere with this person. And my advice would always then be, move on, find somebody else to fulfill your request. A no to you personally is something you need to actually find quickly. A no to your idea is something not so bad. I can speak with some experience here, because certainly 40 years ago, crikey, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, we conducted a series of experiments on this. Back in the days when I started in the financial services business, I worked for a major life assurance company in the UK. And I started out, like most people, as a salesman. I rose fairly quickly, as some of you know, and I ended up running a whole chunk of the business. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about how we taught people things. And we taught people how to ask for meetings on the telephone. Because back in the late 70s, early 80s, that's really the only way you could communicate with people. You would call them up on the phone and say, hello, my name's Clive Evans. I'd like to come and have a conversation with you about your finances. Words to that effect. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay. And actually, if you made enough phone calls, you got a bunch of meetings. Statistically, we could actually run a spreadsheet on somebody and actually say, okay, if this guy makes 10 phone calls, he will get one meeting. If this guy makes 5 phone calls, he will get one meeting. Some people are better than others. Why? I don't know. That's hard to tell, isn't it? You could say possibly it's the quality of the lists that they were calling. I don't think so. It's just a question of actually making it work. And some people found it very difficult to call people up, strangers, and say, hello, I'm Clive Evans. Can I come and talk to you about whatever it is? So what we got people to do was pair off and pretend to be each other. Fascinating. Fascinating. All of a sudden, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for him. So it goes like this. Hello, my name's Clive Evans and I'm calling on behalf of Roger Overall. I wonder if you could spare him some time next Thursday. Completely different conversation, isn't it? I'm calling on behalf of somebody else and I want to see if you could spare him some. So if there is a yes or a no, it's nothing to do with me. And it's actually nothing to do with him either. It actually proves that it's the event that gets rejected, not the person. Interesting, isn't it? Just run that through in your mind and see how that might work. And say, hey, move on. Move on. If somebody says no, move on to somebody that can say yes. There's always going to be somebody that can say yes to whatever it is you want. Maybe the next bit to learn is how to find them. And that's back to the beginning of saying who's in a position to help you and what is it that you want to achieve. Don't be afraid. Just do it. Of course, I could tell you a really funny story about it if you like. One of my best sales trainers, a wonderful man called Philip Chauncey. I don't know if Philip's still alive. Fabulous bloke, really old school Brit. Had worked in advertising prior to coming into financial services. He worked with me for nearly 10 years as my sales trainer. He was a really cool guy. And Philip was terribly young, terribly British. And as a result of being terribly British, terribly young, he also had a slight stutter. And we had one guy who was finding difficulty in making appointments on the telephone. And I remember sitting watching these guys at work. And Philip said, don't worry, I'll make the next couple of calls for you. And if they're successful, then fine, off you go. You'll have some appointments. So off he goes on the phone. Hello, it's Philip Chauncey here from Hambro Life. We have an interesting financial program and I'd like to come along and talk to you about that if you don't mind. I wondered if you'd be free next Thursday or Friday. Words to that effect. 3 phone calls down the road, he has an appointment. Happy days. So he turned around to the bloke and said, so you've got a bit of a good news here and some bad news. The good news is Philip Chauncey has an appointment and you're going to be Philip Chauncey. The bad news is I don't know if you can actually speak like me when you get there. Some important things then when you're asking. Think about what we just described about this. We're calling somebody up. We're trying to arrange a meeting with them. The benefit to them, by the way, is that they get to learn a bit about finances and stuff. And the benefit to us is we get to meet them and guess what? We hope to do business. But the key issue is we know who we're going to speak to. We know why we're going to speak to them. And I'm not necessarily... I want you to try and think bigger than what I've just described. Every time you ask a question of somebody, you want to think, is this the right person to ask the question? Who am I speaking to about this? Why am I speaking to them? Can they help me forward with what it is that I'm trying to achieve? In particular, your life plan. If this person can't help you with your life plan, let's go and find somebody that can. If my dog, who's wandering about down here again, she has one thing in life, well, two things. They're kind of walks and food. And right now she's going, it feels like lunchtime, and I know he's the person to talk to about food. So I keep getting nudged in the knee and saying, hello, you, when's my foodsters coming? So we're probably going to have to break this shoot for foodsters at some point or other. She knows who to ask. She knows what to ask. She can't actually speak, but I know what she wants. And you can see where this goes. So, key point. Are you asking the right person? Can they help you forward? Are they the person that can help you move on with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve? And are you asking them at the right time to make that work? Have you given them enough time to consider what it is that you're asking? You may be in a hurry, they may not be in a hurry. Their urgency is not your urgency. Always, when asking somebody something, think about how it works the other way round. How would you feel in this situation? What would you do? I think far too many people really don't think about negotiation, which is what this is at the end of the day, in terms of how it feels from both sides. Try and always look from the other side of the coin. Don't just ask. I can be quite blunt occasionally, but occasionally those occasions are usually when I've worked out it's probably the most effective way to do it. Otherwise, you've got to continually be soft. People don't like being pushed, but they love being cosseted and loved. Ask my dogs, they know all about that. And of course, know why you're asking all the time. Porsche and Carrera ask because they're hungry, or even more interestingly, because they think they're hungry. Actually, they're not. Not really hungry, it's just, hang on a minute, it's quite interesting this, if you think about it, doing your research again. We are rescue dogs. They were both strays. They both lived on the streets for some considerable time. So they are always hungry. There is never enough food in the house for them. And that would be very different from a dog that grew up in an environment as a puppy. It's a question of understanding who it is that you're talking to, isn't it? So try and think why, how, when, what. What am I trying to achieve here? For whom? And is there anything in this for them too? This isn't just about me. This is an interchange of things. I'm going to give them food. If I bother him enough for him to give me some food, I'll get food. So I know that to do that, I have to give him lots of love back, because otherwise he won't bring me any food. It's got to be a two-way interchange, isn't it? Dogs are great. Good dogs really know how to do this. Watch them. They're really clever. And if you think about it, asking is a very powerful way of getting people to do stuff anyway. There's a huge difference between giving orders for somebody and asking somebody to do something, if you see where I'm going. Tell somebody to do something. Will you tell so-and-so how to do this? As opposed to, will you ask so-and-so to do this? What's the difference between the two? I'm a great believer in asking. Part of what we do all the time, if you've been working with us for a while, you get it. We're continually asking you what you want. We're continually asking you how you can get what you want out of life and how we can help you. Now, why are we doing that? Because, of course, by helping you, we help ourselves. All of this is a reciprocal thing. People like helping other people do stuff. Zig Ziglar, you can get anything you want out of life if you help other people get what they want out of life. That's one of our huge mantras. That's what we do every day, is help you guys get what you want out of your futures. And in return for that, we get to live the life that we want to live. So your dream life helps us become our dream life. It's all part of the same thing. So a key issue with all of this is what's in it for each party. Yeah? I want you to do this for me, but what's in it for you? Even better, if I can help you to do something and therefore in return you're doing what it is that I actually want. Try thinking of it that way around. That's even better, isn't it? The dog scenario again. By taking the dogs for a walk, I finally managed to lose some weight and they get what they want. So they say, basically, Take me for a walk, Clive. Take us for a walk. Take us out onto the hills for a walk and then lose some of that fat stomach. Actually, they don't really say that, but I can see that's what's going on, you know? It's very, very important stuff, this. As a super yacht captain, you are actually giving orders some of the time. But the most successful captains I know reframe those orders into nice requests to do something to help yourself progress. Yeah? Quite interesting for me at the moment. I'm running a major event in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's the biggest event Porsche Club Island have done in 2 years, and it's my baby. And it's 2,600 kilometres of drive up the Wild Atlantic Way, which is the left-hand side of Ireland, over 7 days, and there'll be 70 cars participating. Why am I telling you this? Because I couldn't do it on my own. What I've done is I've put together a team of 5 people, all of whom are close friends and good buddies, and I've called them in and said, look, can you help me do this? And in return for this, you'll be organising that, and that will be of benefit. We're all putting the stuff back into this club that we're part of. But the key issue is I'm finding people that are talented in several different areas. Garrett D, who is an old friend of mine and I've driven with thousands and thousands of miles, turns out to be a brilliant PR person, organising press campaigns, organising media, and getting the Irish Tourist Board to give us nearly €1,000 worth of kit to give to our people. I never knew. But by asking him to join in, I've been able to say, fine, you do that. The key issue here is I'm not micromanaging these people. I've asked them to become part of the team, and I've effectively said, that's your baby. That's what you do. We meet once a week and actually check everything's going on. But at the end of the day, I'm not really interested in what they're doing. The routes are being organised by Eamon McEwen, who is Porsche Club Ireland's, I call him the drive meister. He knows every road in Ireland sideways, backwards and upside down. He seems to have driven every single one of them. Yes, I know it's a small country, but Eamon knows the lot. So he's putting together the routes. Nobody questions, oh, Eamon, why don't we do it another way? He says, we do it this way. I hope I'm making some sense here, that this has been an ask, not a tell. And as a result of it being an ask, not a tell, I've got a huge amount of support from these guys, and this is going to be a tremendous event. Of course, it helps a lot that we're all doing this for our own why. We're doing this out of our own time because we want to help something that we're part of. But I hope you can see what I'm getting at. By making people feel part of something, you can get a whole load more out of them than actually saying, just do this. In fact, what you do is you find that they bring things to the table that you hadn't even thought of, because instead of saying just do this, you say, could you go out and find out about? And they come back with all sorts of things. Terrific stuff. Who knew? I can't recommend it enough. Don't tell, ask. Always think about this stuff before you do it. Montgomery. Time spent on reconnaissance is rarely wasted. Guess what? He stole that from Wellington. And what's really interesting is Montgomery won the West Africa, in the Second World War, won the North African campaign against Rommel, who also claimed to have used that phrase. So all great generals go, time spent on reconnaissance is rarely wasted, which is true. But reconnaissance is something you can do all the time. It's kind of going, who can help me? What do they need? Before you even start, what do they need that I can bring to the table just in case they start? And I can go, good, in return for you, I can help you with that. Most people need something. It's very interesting that most people that can help you, probably you can help them too. So it's probably a great idea, in fact I tell you it's a wonderful idea, to think about how you can help this person without even going anywhere. Let me give you another good example on this Porsche Club thing I'm arranging. Part of this means that I've had to negotiate with Porsche Centre Dublin on behalf of the club, which is the largest single car club in Ireland. But it's never had a great relationship with the distributor of the mark here. So I walk in the door and I arranged an appointment with the dealer principal, which is the head honcho, and nobody's ever done that before either, apparently. And I have a meeting with him in Dublin the other week on the way back from a rally. And the first thing I did was sit down with him and said, look, I'm here as a committee member of Porsche Club Ireland. I want to see how we can help you sell more Porsches. And there was a silence in the room. I like silence a lot. And he looked at me and I looked at him and he said, I can't use the words because we're in Ireland and people use these words. It's me, Clive. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. Fascinating. Remember, I was there to ask him for something. But the first thing I did was ask him how I could help him do what I knew he wanted to do, which is sell more Porsche cars. Now, frankly, if you can't use Porsche Club Ireland to help you sell more Porsche cars in Ireland, then where else can you do it? But like he said, nobody from the club had ever asked that before. And in a short time, we built quite a strong working relationship. I got a whole bunch of sponsorship for this trip that we're doing out of him, including the use of a backup car for a week out on the west coast of Ireland, all because I started out saying, how can I help you? I think there's a good example there, isn't there, of how can you get what you want by automatically giving something to somebody that you know they want. It's a perfectly good tool in business, but most people don't use it in their personal or indeed kind of quasi-professional lives. In other words, how can I help you do whatever it is I know that you want to do? How can I help your business succeed? Give me a business owner that isn't going to go, ooh, this person wants to help me. What can I do in return? Okay? And therefore, if somebody gives you something, always say to them, if there's anything I can do to help you in what it is that you're trying to achieve, it's a great conversation finisher, not finisher, but kind of summing up. Thank you for that. Listen, if there's anything I can ever do to help you in what you're trying to achieve, just let me know. Good? Nice stuff to use? Okay, then also have in the back of your mind the thing that you might want to actually give somebody that says that to you for that one occasion when, without expecting it, somebody says to you, oh, how can I help you? Is there anything I could do to help you? You must have the answer ready. Because that's a good way of getting what you want. Always help people get what they want and you will get what you want. I can't stress it enough. Zig Ziglar. You can get anything you want out of life by helping people get what they want out of life. The trouble with most people is they don't give. We have a thing we call the bank of life. It's actually a Clive and Teresa Evans idea. And the bank of life's all about credit and debit. And if you keep crediting, if you keep doing things for the world, the life, the people, whatever it is, you can get whatever you want out. The trouble with an awful lot of people is they won't put money into an account without knowing they can get it out. You have to have the faith to put money into your account of life to know that you'll get whatever you want out of it at some point in the future. You can't just put money in that you expect to take out yourself. It's not going to work. You think about the money you took out of the hole in the wall yesterday. You did not put those pound notes in there. Somebody else did. Whole human negotiation is like that. Use the bank of life in your favour. Put something in. It's a concept known as paying it forward. Most people understand the idea of paying something back. In other words, I've borrowed something, let me pay it back. Paying it forward's all about, I don't know what I want yet, but let me just pay something forward into the situation, and then I'll be able to get something back at some point or other in the future. So, Donald Duggan at Porsche Centre Ireland, tell me, what can I do to help you sell more Porsche cars? If that isn't paying it forward, I don't know what is. So, who do you ask? We've talked about that. Make sure it's somebody that can help you. Or somebody that can get you to somebody that can help you. Think about that. Hello, I'm looking for this. Can you help me? No, I don't. Fine. Do you know anybody that can? Who do you know that can help me do this? Who do you know that I can help do something? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who else who do you know that I know? The point I'm trying to make is we need to make sure that the person that we're asking can help us, but we also need to give them the opportunity to lead us to the right person to help us if they can't. The solution is within the solution. Yeah, the solution might be taking you somewhere else. One of my favourite questions that I love to ask professionals is, what would you do if you were me? You know, in this situation, what would you do if you were me? It's a great thing to ask. And you get really good advice then. Yeah? What would you do if you were in my position? What would you do? Where would you go from here? Where would you go if you were me? Unfortunately, not many of them are kind of quick enough to actually go somewhere else. It's got to be fun. So, yeah, who do you know that can help me do this? Who do you know that can help me do this? And what can that person that's passing you on to them get out of that? Because you might be helping that other person do something, which means that the other person helps you do something. It's all a question of rotating around, and your network's much bigger than you think. Especially, you don't know the people that the people you know. Okay? You don't know the people that you know. I live in a very small country. It's small geographically and small population. There's only 4 million people in this country, and 2 million of them live in one city that's called Dublin. You know, so guess what? That really means that there's 2 million people spread out all over the place. But the old Irish adage is that if you actually talk to 3 people, you will find somebody that you both know is not entirely untrue. You know, it is a very small place. Therefore, people can easily lead you to other people to help you do stuff. Everybody here knows somebody that does something. It's just how it's done. And nobody's afraid to ask. If you live in a remote community like I do, it's always a question of asking somebody how they can help you. We couldn't get by without our neighbours and asking our neighbours how we can help each other. So my next door neighbour farmer, I helped him. I blocked the lane for his cows the other day. And he said, Clive, I'm going to turn you into a farmer yet. Well, actually, he said something in the West Cork dialect that I didn't really understand, but I think that's what he said. But in return, the dogs went missing the other day, and he helped me go out up onto the hills to look for them. So that's how it works. How can you help people? This whole video is all about asking people for stuff. And all I'm trying to get across to you is that it's something you have to do, but think why you're doing it. You're trying to get things that you want. Show them things that they want. So humour's wonderfully important here. The late, great Groucho Marx, one of my most favourite ever comedians, was also a very good raconteur. And if you look at the character that he plays, he uses a cigar to great effect. Okay? How can you use a cigar to great effect? Because what you do, you watch Groucho Marx do this, he asked a question and then spent the next 5 minutes lighting and sucking on a cigar. Silence is golden. And when interviewed, he said, well, it allows people to say what they have to say, which is either yes or no or whatever it is. Wonderful pause. See what I'm getting at? Using something to create the pause is really what it's about. So, pause for a moment, because I'm going to finish this with an ask from you. Light cigar, Pat's dog, light cigar, Pat's dog. What am I going to ask you? It's going to be something really difficult. Is it? No, it isn't really. It's something that is so incredibly obvious to both of us that I keep forgetting to ask you. You see, you're sitting there listening to this mentoring video. And the reason you're listening to this mentoring video is you are a YUFSOL partner. And the reason you are a YUFSOL partner is you had a conversation with us and then a series of meetings, and then we implemented a discovery call, and we did a bunch of work together that resulted in you creating a plan for your dream life and becoming a YUFSOL partner. And I hope you're enjoying that, because clearly it's working for you. And of course it's working for us too. But the point I'm trying to make is, how did all this happen? How did all this happen? Did we just meet each other in the street? I doubt it. Of course we didn't. Somebody, somewhere, said, why don't you have a chat to these guys? Because they can help you. Because they do something completely different from other people. They actually ask you what you want. Most financial people tell you what you want. They tell you what you want in terms of financial product. We ask you what you want out of life and show you how to use financial products to get there. There's a huge difference between those two things, as you know. And that's why you're here, and that's why you're doing this. So what do I want from you? It's very simple. I want somebody else just like you. I want somebody else just like you that can benefit from all of this. And the whole point is, you know them and I don't. And you know more of them than just one. You know several that me and Teresa don't. So I'm asking you to help us. Because by helping us, we can make this whole thing much bigger and help everybody. So please, as a result of this conversation, what I'd like you to do is think of 3 people. Just 3. No more. 3 people in yachting at the right level. Show them what we do and invite them to have a discovery call, just like you did. And then they can make up their own mind. You don't have to worry about whether it's right or wrong for them. Let's get them to make up their mind. Will you do that for me, please? I'd be very, very grateful. And so would Portia, and so would Carrera.